So now we are with you on the place where is the entrance to the city from the south. And if we drive with you further, like 700 kilometers, we will get with you to the capital of Russia, Moscow. And also this is the entrance from the south. All political delegations and all the tourists who arrive by airplanes, they enter the city from this side. And this is the first memorial that they see. And it looks like a granite circle, a ring, because our city was surrounded by the Nazis 900 days and nights, and the city of Leningrad was taken into the circle of the siege. And this memorial was opened on the 9th of May in 1975, when we celebrated 30 years anniversary. And there were not that many memorials constructed here before this date, before the death of Stalin, because it was considered that one city couldn't be so important. And that is why only in 1960s and in 1970s the memorials dedicated to the Siege of Leningrad started to appear. And this one is one of the most impressive, and let's see what we have there. So if you look around, you will see the broken circle of the siege and the inscription 900 days and 900 nights and the eternal flame. And also all of these walls, let's see as well for different achievements. And also St. Petersburg or Leningrad after the Second World War was given the title City Hero, as well as 12 other cities. And you can see here this sculptural group that was made by a sculptor Spiransky, and also Anikushin took part in the creation of this memorial complex. And Anikushin, for example, himself took part in the defense of Leningrad. And almost everyone, or at least every second family in Leningrad, lost someone in this war. And this year, on the 9th of May, we celebrated our 70 years anniversary of the victory in this war. And each date that is connected to the siege is celebrated and remembered. And we have here red carnation flower. It's the symbol of the victory and of the blood and the victims that we got. And in the surrounded Leningrad, we lost more than 1 million people, mostly because of the starvation. And we will see with you more telling us about this terrible part of our history in the underground museum. And you can see here the dates of the Second World War. Actually, the Great Patriotic War for Russia started on the 22nd of June in 1941 and continued till the 9th of May of 1945. And the Siege of Leningrad started in 1941 and continued till 1944. And in this memorial you can see, and you will see, 900 lamps. And they are made of 76 millimeter shells. To remind us, yes, it's all real. Yeah, to remind us about the tragic days of the siege. And you can see here the restoration that was made recently and finished recently by the 9th of May this year. You can see this memorial complex had to be restored. So here you can see the map of Leningrad, it's here, and the Leningrad region, the suburbs. So the Nazis were stopped about 15 miles from the city center and about 15 kilometers from the city. And actually, for Hitler, Leningrad was a very important city to be taken. And there was the so-called Barbarossa plan to capture the USSR, and there were three groups of armies, the north, the south, and the center. South had to go for the southern parts of Russia and Kiev. The central group was had an aim to reach Moscow, and the northern group went to Leningrad. And Leningrad stopped the troops of Hitler. And you can see the city was taken into the circle of the siege. And Leningrad was a very important research center, scientific center. A lot of military enterprises were here, and they produced shells, different artillery, weapon, tanks. And also Leningrad was a port. You can see that we are located on the Neva River and on the Gulf of Finland. And we are the city that is located pretty close to Finland. We used to have only 30 kilometers to Finnish border, and then during the winter war against Finland, Stalin moved the border, and now it's like 132 kilometers. And you can see the circle of the siege. Only two parts were not captured by the Nazis. The island, our seafort Kronstadt, where we had the Baltic fleet, and if only Kronstadt couldn't have resisted, Leningrad would have been captured by the Nazis. And also Oranienbaum, here it is to the left, the only two places in the suburbs. The whole territory of Leningrad region surrounding these blue and red lines was occupied by the Nazis, and the city was cut from the mainland. Now along the defense line we have the so-called Green Belt of Glory, and you can see these photographs. They tell us about the memorials that are located on the way from Leningrad, from St. Petersburg, in the direction of Lake Ladoga, the only communication that connected Leningrad with the mainland. First on the water, the boats could bring the cargoes and freight to Leningrad, and then on the ice. From the winter of 1941 till spring, till March of 1943, we had this road of life that saved so many lives, and a lot of freights and people could be evacuated and delivered. So here you can see the plot of land. And you can see here the shells and the helmet, actually the weapon that was used. And even now in the suburbs of Leningrad we still have the remains of the soldiers that even now are discovered, and we still have a lot of shells and bombs that can be found in the suburbs of Leningrad. And this plot of land was brought from the parts where the most decisive battles took place next to the surrounded Leningrad. next to the Lake Ladoga and next to the Neva River. And the second showcase can tell us about the Home Guard formations and citizens in arms that volunteered. It started on the 30th of June in 1941. Thousands of people, 160,000 of people decided to join citizens in arms and to protect the city. And the city was turned into the fortress, and anti-tank entanglements, barbed wire defenses were built around the city. And there were only few months for the city to get ready, from the 22nd of June till the 8th of September. About 200,000 people volunteered for the front. The city was actually turned into the fortress before the Siege of Leningrad. Before the siege, there were about 3 million people. And there were about 800,000 children who were left in Leningrad, but not that many people wanted to leave the city because no one believed that the Nazis could get so close and could come so close to Leningrad. Here you can see the pictures, the photographs. They were installed here recently, and they are already dedicated to the victory and to the struggle for Berlin. And if you look on the wall to our left, you will see the mosaic that is dedicated to the siege of Leningrad as well. And Hitler first wanted to capture the city within the first 2 weeks of the Second World War, but he failed, and he issued a secret directive according to which the city had to be destroyed by constant bombing. And it was decided that the city of such size shouldn't be here any longer. And according to the statistics here, every third building was damaged and every seventh building was destroyed. And now, according to the recent information, Hitler wanted to eliminate the population of Leningrad, who stayed within the limits of the besieged city, to eliminate by starvation. And the Nazis destroyed Badaev's storages with flour and sugar. They were burned by them. The city was turned into the fortress, but there was not enough food for the city of such size to survive for a long time. And the Nazis knew it. The professor of the university in Munich, Ziegelmeier, he was asked by Hitler to calculate carefully how long a human being can survive on certain ration, and it was a miracle that people were still alive, and the starvation carried away the majority of people, more than 1 million. And we will see with you the piece of bread. The shortest bread ration was in 1941. It was 125 grams of bread for women and children, a slice of bread of a small size, and 50% consisted of flour. Another 50% were additional substances like bran, sawdust. Everything that could be possible was eaten. And we will see with you more in the showcases here. The city was struggling, but still the city was functioning. I mean that here we had quite a number of enterprises that were evacuated to the rear, to the Urals and behind the Urals, but also there were enterprises like, for example, Kirovsky enterprise that was still working and starving women and children lived literally on the Enterprise, and the tanks were produced also rifles, anti-aircraft weapon, mortars, so everything that could be produced was produced here in St. Petersburg and then was taken to the battlefront. And you can see here the samples, and this red cloth is dedicated to those who worked on the Enterprise, and it was like an award given to those who produced all this. And you can see here the city never gave up, and the spirit of the Leningradians was not broken by the Nazis. And there were 39 schools, 3 theaters, 20 movie theaters that were open in the theater. Mostly the schools and the universities, they were opened in the bomb-proof shelters. And actually, almost everyone now remembers the heroic symphony of Dmitry Shostakovich that was written by him in surrounded Leningrad, and then finished in the evacuation, and then brought by airplane back to Leningrad. And in 1942 it was performed here in the big Philharmonic Hall and translated via radio to the citizens of the USSR and Europe. And the radio was the only voice of Leningrad. The radio was functioning, and the sound that you can see, the sounds of metronome, were like the heart beating of the city. And you can see here, in this showcase, we can see the personal belongings of the citizens. So you can imagine that during the hottest winter of 1941-1942, the temperature went down up to -35, -40 centigrade. So for us, it was abnormal, and actually everything that could be used for heating was used by the citizens. There was no sewage works, no water supply, and no electricity, and the only kind of public transport, trams, they stood still. And you can see this is an oil lamp, one of the only sources of light during this hardest winter. This is the smallest piece of bread, the bread ration of 125 grams. It looked like this. For women and children, for the working people, it was like 250 grams of bread. Everything that could be eaten was eaten. There were no dogs, no cats, no birds, so no animals left. And people could eat glue. It was made of fish bones and the bones of animals, leather belts, so everything that could support them. Everyone got these tiny cards for the bread ration a day. And you can see here, this is a wooden board with the inscription Winter 1941 Starvation, and on this board the bread was cut. And here we can stand in front of this screen and see the short movie without words, only the scenes telling us about the war. Pskov. Over there to your right is Novgorod, the old Russian capital, Gatchina, Pushkin. We are going now to Pushkin with you. It was also captured by the Nazis. And this is the circle of the siege. Only two places, Oranienbaum on the seashore and our seaport in the center of Finland, Kronstadt, were occupied by the Red Army and never taken by the Nazis. And there were the troops going from the north, from Finland. You can see here the city called Vyborg, and this is the Karelian Peninsula, and this is the defense line from the north. And over there to the right is Lake Ladoga, where the road of life was functioning on water from autumn of 1941 and on the ice, as you've noticed on the screen, during the winters of 1941, 1942 and 1943. And along this road a lot of children were evacuated and freight was delivered to the city. And let's see a few more showcases. So here you can see the showcase that is dedicated to those who protected the city from the fires. There were incendiary bombs and high explosive bombs that were dropped on the city, and incendiary bombs, they caused the fires. And there were the shifts of the defenders of the city that who were on the roofs of the city and who with this item could remove the incendiary bombs from the roofs and drop them into the sandbags, because in the city a lot of fires were caused and the aim of Hitler was to destroy the city. You can see in this one, this part is dedicated to Lake Ladoga. So more than 1,200,000 people were evacuated along the road of life, and about 450,000 people were protecting and working on this road, and more than 1,500,000 tons of freight were brought along this road to St. Petersburg, food and the supply as well as fuel. Let's see. Here we have the so-called Book of Memory. 1941, 1945 are the dates of the war. And in this Book of Memory, you can find the names of the participants of the Siege of Leningrad. You can find the names of the relatives if you are from Leningrad. So those who protected the city, because we are still grateful for their heroic defense. So these are the names of the boats. More than 60 of them took part in the protection of Leningrad. The Baltic Red Banner fleet was on Kronstadt and next to Oranienbaum, and also the fleet of Lake Ladoga saved so many lives. And you can see this black and orange ribbon. It's the ribbon of Saint George, and it is given in the streets to the pedestrians and the drivers on the eve of the 9th of May. And if you remember and if you respect, so it looks like this. So you put it on your bag, on your jacket, and it means that you remember the victims and those who protected the city. Here you can see a part of the airplane, and actually the Nazis, they attacked the city from air, and above the roofs of the buildings there were barrage balloons. Actually the high-rise buildings like the spires of the cathedrals and the domes, they were camouflaged But the only reason why they were not destroyed by the Nazis was that they were a part of the reference line. The city is absolutely flat, and all these buildings survived only due to this reason. And of course, a lot of pilots of the Russian airplanes, they protected the city from the air raids, and this showcase is dedicated to them. And if you turn here to the right, you will see the mosaic. It is dedicated to the victory and to the parade that was held after the siege, after the victory on the 9th of May. And due to those who protected the city, who sacrificed their lives, now we are here. And we are grateful to them. And now let's return back to our car. These are the memorials in different parts of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus as well. As well as on the opposite side, you can see the map of the USSR. And in the Second World War, more than 60 million people died. Half of this amount were the victims on the side of the USSR. And during the defense of Leningrad, more people died than during on the side of England and the United States during the Second World War, totally. So now let's go out. The city, and here you can see the sculpture of a soldier and a worker, those who protected the city side by side. And this 48 meters high granite stela has the dates of the Second World War, 1941, 1945. The first that you see when you enter the city from this side, from the motorway. And after this we can return with you.